Joining me now are Terry Liu, who I spoke with a few years ago, and I'll talk to him about that, and Brett Carlisle. They've got a project together. Terry, I'm going to start with you. You and I did an interview in a studio in North Hollywood about 5.5 years ago. You were talking about your Gypsy Dreams album, which I really enjoyed. And at that time, you were also the lead singer of Great White, and there have been a couple of changes there. And interestingly, the current lead singer of Great White is our other guest, Brett Carlisle. So obviously, seems like that's not a big issue if you guys are going to go there. And Brett, I know that you got that job because Andrew Freeman was the singer of Great White, but he's also the singer for Last in Line. So that wasn't going to work. Sometimes people are able to do a couple of bands, but so how did you get into that job? And then I'm going to ask if were you already working with Terry when you got offered this job of working with Great White?
Yeah, me and Terry had done a few shows together, and it's awesome. And as far as Great White, my band AON was playing at Turning Stone Casino the same night they were. And when they got done with their show in the big room, Audie and Scott came down and saw the end of our show, and they liked what they heard, and they're friends with our manager. And so whenever Andrew had that conflict, they
Yeah.
said, "Hey, what about that? What about the kid?" So they called Eric. They sent me some tracks. I sang on them, sent them back, and had to had to learn the set in like a week for the Vegas show.
I think you hear a lot of times people say, "Oh, I was just in the right place at the right time." But that sounds like literally one of those instances. You happen to be opening for the band
Right.
and they're like, "Oh yeah, the guy we've got." And yeah, look, I mean, those are great songs and not everybody can sing them. Terry, did I see that at some point earlier this year you did some shows with Jack Russell? Did I see that correctly or am I making that up?
No, you're not actually. Jack is a friend
Okay.
of mine,
Yeah.
and we did some. We recorded a song together, and a cover of a Tom Petty song, which I really like actually. A really good song and a great version. And Jack did a great job. I did a great job, and in fact, we have more shows coming up. So
Oh, great.
yeah, I'm friends with everybody. Brett is my little brother. Jack is my other brother.
Yeah.
So I believe that we all have to be friends. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm happy for the kid. And again, I call him the kid because he's young, not because it's a demeaning way of talking about him at
Sure.
all. He's the kid to me, and it's a wonderful thing. I think we should all do that, musicians, and not fear of being overshadowed by somebody else. I never felt that way, and I will never feel this way. So I'm happy for the kid. He's my
Yeah, no,
friend. He's my
and
friend.
it's interesting because
I'm happy that I'm very happy he's got the gig. Better him than
yeah,
anybody else.
right. And Brett, I haven't seen you with Gray White, but I've seen Terry, and I've also seen Jack within the last few years. Everybody's great; those are great songs. I enjoy them. It's interesting when people are like, "I'm going to take it out of your band because I don't want to." The Brett you're being in Great White right now. A good example would be Skid Row. Skid Row's out there. They have also had a couple of singers the last few years. The current singer's great, but also Sebastian Bach's out there. I'm somebody that like, I like Skid Row songs. I also like Sebastian, but I'm going to go ahead and see both of those. I'll go and see both. Yeah, they're not going to be playing on the same night. Although I think I did hear that they did play on the same night once in Vegas. But other than that, it usually doesn't happen. And it's like, yeah, I'd like to see those songs. If I see them a couple times in a year, it's going to be okay. And I don't know. I think some people get really dug in though. Like I don't want to see this band without this member or whatever. And I don't know. I think it's about just going out and seeing and having a good time and I don't know, hearing great music. Also, when I saw Sebastian Bach, he was doing the Slave to the Grind album in its entirety. So that was a good hook. It was very
That's
smart
awesome.
on his part, you know? So I don't know. I think that I think there's plenty of room for everybody. And it's also, you know, when it comes down to like, oh, I really like, you know, I like 90s hard rock, and then, oh, I didn't like grunge when it started. I don't know. I kind of liked all of it in the 90s, you know, and going into the 2000s. Rap rock is where they lost me. You know, Limp Bizkit, Kid Rock, that was never my thing. But actual rock, I was just like, I don't care what kind it is. I enjoy it all. But we got to draw the line somewhere. So let's talk about this project. So, Brett, you have your band AON, and Terry, and also the great George Lynch is involved in this. What is this called? Is there a name for this band, or is it George Lynch with Terry Ilous and AON, or is there, you know, so I'm not even sure how to introduce it, you know, and we're going to hear a great song. Our audio audience is going to hear a great song after this conversation, but what do we call it? That's the starting for it.
Brett, what do we call it?
Uh,
We call it a big rock and roll party with some great people, and
yeah.
and the fans are happy, and George is amazing, Brett's amazing, the band is amazing. We call it rock and roll, having fun, getting family tour together. That's what it's called, you know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think that it might be hard to squeeze that onto a marquee if you guys are doing live shows, but we'll get to that. So how does it first come about? What's the first? And I assume, Terry, you must have known George forever, you know, I mean, because
Yeah.
you know, he's been around for so long. And by the way, on the new song, still sounding like peak George Lynch. You know, you don't feel like, oh, he's slowed down a little bit, you know. It's you know, you never want that moment where you go like, oh, it's Eric Clapton unplugged, not Eric Clapton plugged in. I don't know. Does George know how to do unplugged? Because I've never heard it.
No, George is a very versatile guitarist.
Yeah, of course.
And I think he pretty much can do every. Of course, he likes to crank it up really loud, but I think George is a very talented guitarist who can pretty much do anything. Now, the way we started the project is this song was actually written for me. And when my bass player Pat decided to, it talked me into going into a different direction for the new EP we're gonna release in a few weeks. I said, okay. So the song was in my hard drive. I wrote the song. I didn't know what to do with it, and I talked to Pat, who wrote the lyrics. I said, what do we do with it? He said, nothing. I said, well, what about if I play with AON and George? And he said, oh, that's a good idea. So I talked to Brett and Jacobs and all the kids, and I said, would you like to do a song? And they said, let me play you the song. And I played it first. Brett's manager, who's a buddy of mine as well, he said, yeah, it's a great idea. So Jacob played on it, Skylar, and of course Ian as well, and sang as well. And we asked George to do guitars, and the story, that's it. You know, it's just all of us getting together. And then there's actually more songs coming up. George and I and AON have decided to unite for more songs and more shows. So I think it's exciting. I mean, you know, all of us together, it's great.
Yeah, and the song we're talking about is Dead or Alive. The easiest way to find it is just go out there on YouTube, but of course anywhere you listen to music. But and I think it's on your YouTube page, Terry. It might be other places, but that's where I think I found it. So you know, right. But so talk about, Brett, you know, just sort of getting this opportunity to actually, you know, work with Terry and George Lynch.
It's cool. We recorded the song in Denver, and that was my first time in Denver. Always wanted to go, so I was super excited.
You liked it, huh?
Yes, I love it.
Did you have to do any adjusting to the altitude? The first time I went to Denver,
Yes.
the middle of the day, I had driven cross country with my dad, moving from New York to LA, and we're walking around Denver, and I was just like, Dad, I need to go back to the hotel. I have to sleep. I was exhausted. It wasn't from the driving, just walking around. And I've been back to Denver since then, and I think I was better prepared for it. But man, that first time, it really hits you, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's especially trying to sing with it.
Oh,
and then we did a show, Terry. We did that show in Utah after we left Denver that time, and the altitude over there, it's
to you, right? It's hard to get the notes, right?
Whenever whenever you're singing like that and you're not there for a couple of days to get adjusted to it, it feels like you're just like trying to hold on to sand or something. Like it's just but it's not there. There's just no sustenance to your breath. It's a little frustrating at first, but yeah. So we went out there.
And Brett, you're a young kid. I'm an old man, so check it out.
Does
I can't imagine.
is that something you found out, Terry, in your career that, I'm going to be going to, such and such a city, whether it's in the US or anywhere in the world. Like I remember it was more than a decade ago, my wife went and saw Meatloaf. He was doing a residency where he told stories and sang in Vegas, but he talked about, he had some vocal problems, at that point in his life, but he said Vegas in particular was really hard on him because the air was so dry. Do you find that in Vegas or anywhere else that it's like, it's much harder to sing here than
two cities for me are difficult. Vegas, it's very difficult. It gets really dry on your vocals, so you drink a lot of water. And Denver, because of the altitude, it gets to be very difficult. In fact, I remember doing a show with Great White where we actually played a place called Black Hawk, which is actually higher than Denver. It's in Denver, it's in Colorado, but it's higher.
Right. I think that there's like, I think Breckenridge is somewhere that's like, it's like, instead of being a mile high, it's like 2 miles high.
Yeah. So we did a show. I remember doing a show there with Great White. And I remember well that Artie, our drummer at the time, he's still the drummer for Great White, but it needed oxygen in between songs because the altitude was so high. He was like, it was very difficult for him, Denver is difficult. However, Denver is such a great city that it's fine, right, Brett?
It's so pretty. Yeah. It's so pretty up there. I love it.
Yeah, and there's good venues there. I think I saw a band in a place, maybe it was called the Bluebird or something. And I've been to a baseball game there. It's a beautiful ballpark. I'm glad I don't have to try and pitch in it because again, you deal with the altitude. Everything travels twice as far.
Running,
you're a hitter. Yeah, and then imagine having to run. Like you're not going to leg out a triple in Coors Field is what it's called there. So
imagine trying to have sex over there.
What was that, Terry?
Imagine trying to have sex over there.
No, I would just say no. We're gonna wait till we get to Vegas.
You get winded really fast. Like,
all right, we're here. We got here. We've arrived. Now give me 2.5 business days to get used to this.
Right, exactly. Yeah, well, and I was recently hearing Brian Johnson talking about how the sort of the last touring that he did with AC/DC, and I know that it's the same thing. Aerosmith, Steven Tyler still sounds great, but they need like 3 days between shows, and when you're AC/DC, when you're Aerosmith, you want to take 5 days between shows. You can foot the bill, but a lot of bands, maybe can give you a day off, once a week or something. So, so Terry, you always, if you're doing like any kind of extensive touring, you always have a big circle around Denver. Do you try and go there a little early, Denver or Vegas, or
Denver? I tried to go there a day earlier, but. Yeah. Sometimes you don't have that luxury, so you have to do what you have to do.
Sure.
But the one thing I can say, the more you sing, the stronger your vocals get. So, like I remember with Great White, we went on tour. We did 15 shows, and we did 13 shows in a row. That was like just before I quit the band. So it was pretty harsh, actually. No, 16 dates. We did 13 shows in a row. So we had 3 days off. It was really hard, But the thing is, the more you sing, the stronger it gets. But also, you have to watch out for alcohol. You have to watch out for parties, and when you get older, it's much more difficult. Your vocals, it's hard on your voice. But when you're 15, like Brett, it's okay,
Yeah,
15 and a half.
And a half. It's important. I try to make sure that I'm hydrated, because if I'm not hydrated, I can tell as soon as I start trying to sing, this just isn't working.
Do you warm up a lot before shows, Pen?
Yes, I do.
You do, right? You do scales and everything?
Mm-hmm. I do scales. The main thing I do our slides going from the bottom to the top without like flipping, cracking, or anything.
Right.
And usually there's a couple spots between like my chest and my head voice where you can hear just a little bit of like and then try to smooth it out. So after I go over those spots a couple of times and they're kind of smooth, then I'm like, all right, I'm good.
Well, it's
Wow.
interesting. And do you find that you do something similar to that, Terry?
Actually, I only warm up when I'm around him, to be honest with you. Other than
It's
that,
always
I am known to never warm up. I just go ahead and do it right away. I'm like, I
I
don't
mean, I
know.
think it depends on obviously the singer. I mean, I was fascinated to find out that Ronnie James Dio never warmed up,
That's
and
right.
he'd come out on stage, and like the first note would be like "Holy Diver," and you're like, "How are you starting there? You know, you got to
Well,
play for another hour and a half." And it
I
was
remember
just like he just didn't, and it's I don't know, that's impressive, but I
this.
think it's also good when you're thinking long term, Brett. You're saving yourself for some
Yeah,
mileage down the
yeah,
road. You know.
yeah. And also, again, the more you sing, the better you get at it. And I know that Brett is not a party animal. He doesn't party, drink too much, or whatever. So it helps. And if you party a lot, if you drink a lot, alcohol and drugs and everything, your voice ain't gonna last too long. I don't care what
right.
people, But
Yeah,
unless you're a miracle, like Steven Tyler is a complete miracle. Steven
Ye
Tyler sings amazingly still.
yeah,
He's amazing. I mean,
yeah.
he's
I think his damage was over, such a short part of time that he did,
right.
and obviously he's had issues in time since, but they first got clean. It was like 35 years ago now, so I think that's good. The interesting is the guy who was the most infamous for the amount of drinking that he would do was Alice Cooper, except he had that voice when he was in his early 20s that was all gravelly. So it's like it kind of you can only make it sound better. It's almost like Johnny Cash. It was like, oh, but that like old weathered Johnny Cash sounded great in its own way. Sometimes it's like it's like a fine wine, or in Johnny Cash's case, a bottle of whiskey. It's like, oh, it sounds even better. But
Mhm.
so in terms of doing this song, and like I said, there's a video for Dead or Alive. And you said I'm sorry, you said you already did shows and you have some planned. Tell me how those have gone, and when maybe some more are coming up.
Right? You want to tell him?
Uh, they've
Yeah.
all been really. I'm thinking of where to start. They've all been really, really good. The last run of shows we had one in Birmingham, which is where we're from, and then we went down to Destin, Florida. Both shows were packed. The energy was awesome. We've done it in Pennsylvania. It's it's always good because we're just having fun up there. We're all friends, and Terry's singing something, and I'm bouncing around the stage like a goofball, and then I sing something, and he's over there rocking out. It's cool.
It's a rock and roll circus in a way,
It
in a good
really is.
circus, not in a bad way. It's a rock and roll circus, meaning everybody's on stage having fun, all of us, and of course Paul from X-Rays, he's with me on stage as well, and we're all having fun. And then for the finale, Brett gets on stage and does a few songs with George, and I get on stage and I do a few songs with George, and then we all do songs, Brett and I together on stage, singing together, and it's a lot of fun because there's no animosity, it's only camaraderie. It's just a lot of fun. George is happy, the band is happy, and the fans are happy, which is really important because when you do a show, you want to make people smile. You want to make sure that you take them away from their problems for like an hour and a half. That's what
Mm-hmm.
it's all about. For an hour and a half, you got to come to a show, actually longer because our show lasts 3 hours between AON, myself, and George. For 3 hours, they're going to have a good time. They're going to say, man, I forgot about my problems. It was a great show. That's what music is all about. That's what entertainment is all about, is giving something to the public, something fun to the public.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, look, we had such a long stretch where, depending on where you lived, there was some of us. There was a very long time where we weren't able to go to concerts, And I went to a couple in 2021, but then this year there were really a lot more. I live in Los Angeles, so there were a lot more shows, and with that comes some price tags, but the fact that in 2022 I was able to go see Joan Jett, Poison, Motley Crue, and Def Leppard, I was just like, yes, I spent a lot of money for that, but you know what, I got a lot of enjoyment out of it. The price of the t-shirt, that was preposterous, but still I had a
How
good
much
time for the concert.
for the t-shirts?
T-shirts have gone up to like $50 unless you see Kiss, and then they're 75.
Yeah.
But no, to be
75?
fair,
80.
I was making a joke, but for Kiss, the half sleeves, those are 75. So
the
I
$8 for one sleeves.
yeah. So it's like, so yeah, no, but yet if you buy the tank top with no sleeves, it's not $20 cheaper, but yeah, and I mean, just for a long time, the t-shirt inflation, it went from like 20 to 30 and kind of hovered around there, and now you
Well,
really notice.
you have to know the price of a t-shirt nowadays went up as well. To make a t-shirt, if you do a small batch, a good t-shirt costs about $9, not $10. A good batch.
Yeah.
Now, you can get it cheaper using cheap material that you buy a t-shirt and a week later it's crap and the logo goes away and everything. So a t-shirt is, I'm talking small batch. I'm not talking about thousands of them like for
Yeah.
Def Leppard. The price is about $8-9 for a t-shirt. So you think about, you have to carry the shirt, you have to mail the shirt, you have to do all that stuff, right, Brett?
Well,
And
you have to pay the people that sell them
de-
that they're
de-
at the show. Yeah. What were you gonna say,
right,
Brett?
and depending on what venue and where you're playing, sometimes they'll take a cut right off the top.
30%.
Yeah,
Ooh,
we need
wow.
30%. If it's already almost $10 to make, and then they're taking 30% off of it, then you gotta
Mm.
up the prices to even make anything.
Well, I guess the venues also were closed for a while, and they need to make up for lost time. But I don't know that an $18 can of beer is really the solution. But I do understand it,
Right?
and but yeah, look, it's fun. I saw it was just like 2 weeks ago. I went and saw Wasp and Armored Saint. I'd never seen either of them, and I just to see Blackie Lawless at this point in his life, still out there. It was great. It was a great show, and so that was let's just say it was a lot more affordable than going to see Def Leppard, Motley Crue.
Or what
But
about, did you see the price for the tickets, some of the tickets for Taylor Swift? Did you see the price?
I saw the price as I tried to help my wife get tickets. I'm fairly good at figuring out how to get tickets when they go on sale, or at least getting a shot. I have never seen anything like that, and also the fact that even if I had gotten in, the price of the tickets would have been. And look, I live in LA, and tickets always cost a little bit more here. Every once in a while, it's like, oh, but what if what if you go to like Palm Springs or San Diego? You see the difference sometimes. But yeah, I mean, look, and I know Taylor Swift and Bruce Springsteen, they'll have tickets that go for $4,000 because I guess they saw in the StubHub market
More than
somebody
that.
was getting $4,000. So it's like, well, why don't I get $4,000? But if you don't then have tickets maybe towards the back that are, I don't know, 150, 200, I splurged and I spent $400 to see Paul McCartney because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get to see him again. So I accepted that though. I knew what I was paying, but I don't know. But Terry, is what you're saying that you charge less than $4,000 for shows?
Yeah, but 3,500, yeah.
Oh yeah, but that's a steal. But you throw in the t-shirt, so it makes it
Only the sleeveless one. Only the sleeveless.
yeah, it's only the sleeveless one. Yeah. So all right, so you have the song out, and we talked about it, and again, our podcast audience will hear it. It's oh, and look at this comment from Dominica Saxon. I've heard horror stories about rival band members. It's cool you're all friends. So that was a nice thing to see.
We should be friends. The thing is, if you're afraid of another artist, that means you're very insecure with yourself. And Brett is not insecure. I'm not insecure. I have no issues with that, with all the singers of the past great white singers. I know I love them all. They're great people. I know them all. you know, and I respect them all, and I respect everyone in the music business. I don't have this animosity or this feeling where I have to be better or superior than anybody else. Because first of all, there's no such thing as the best singer in the world. That doesn't exist. And second of all, we're all different. We all do different things. Brett is different than myself. So why be scared? Why fear the other singer? I don't fear him. He doesn't fear me because I'm not going to give him that kind of attitude, and he will not as well. You know,
There's a couple singers who come to mind that could
like
probably
who?
hear
Like
that
tell me.
advice. Yeah. There's
Name. We want name. We want names.
I mean, you know, what do I care? He's not coming on my show. You know, if you could get David Lee Roth on the phone and just say what you just said to him, you know, it's like, you know what? Why don't you go back out on tour with Sammy? You know, just imagine that. You know,
That would be a great tour.
I know. It's like it's like
So-
I to hear all those songs. You know, the idea of both of them. And you know, Sammy's another one though. We were just talking about Steven Tyler before. I think he's 75. I might be. I don't want to. You know, age him up too much, but I'm pretty sure I heard he just turned 75.
75.
And it's crazy the guys that can still do that. So
He's a great singer. He's a great entertainer.
Yeah. And he's a great businessman. You know, I've been to Cabo Wabo and I've had some tequila and you know,
good.
it's a great deal. All right. So, but back to what's next. So you said you guys have more songs, Terry, George, AON all together. And are they going to come out on an album, or are you just going to do song by song? And if the album comes out, is it going to say Terry Ilous plus George Lynch plus AON, or you know, that goes back to my earlier question. I need to know where to file the CD on my shelf.
As far as the new songs, I talked to George last week. We are definitely going to do new songs together. That's a must. But the kids will be involved as far as probably writing as well, and probably for sure the writing and playing as well. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be some kind of band effort with you know, all together. And are we going to call it probably the same way? George Lynch and Terry Ilous featuring AON, and I want to emphasize on the featuring AON because the kids actually play on the album, play on the tracks. So what you heard Jacobs as well. You heard Brett sing as well. You heard Ian play drums and bass. I'm sorry, and Skylar play drums. So it's type of a band, you know, and it's an effort. All of us. I will be writing songs with George, of course. I'll be writing songs on my own as well. But ultimately, I'll be writing songs with AON as well, right, Brett?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, look, it can be a little tricky to make things work with multiple bands, but obviously, you know, Brett, you've got Great White. They've got a certain amount of work that they do, and you know, and I'm sure that everybody's able. And I don't know. I wouldn't even know where to begin to say what George is doing, because every once in a while you hear like, oh yeah, he's doing Lynch Mob again. Oh, he's got this other thing, and you know, there's always so much that as long as everybody can make it work, that'll be great. And I guess where does everybody go to keep tabs on each of you? Terry, is it just your name is your website? How do people find you?
Website terryilous.com, of course. Facebook. I'm old school, so I know some people don't like Facebook, but I do Facebook a lot. I do Instagram a lot, TikTok, all that stuff, YouTube. So you just punch my name, Terry Ilous, and then you'll find me somewhere. And I usually always reply to the fans and friends as well, and I reply to them even if it takes me a few days or weeks. I make sure that everybody gets a reply. And right, people can find you on the internet as well. You have your own website, right?
AON does. I don't. But on Facebook, it's just my name, Brett Carlisle. Instagram, Brett_Carlisle. It's kind of the same deal.
Yeah. Well,
Instagram, TikTok. Are you on TikTok as well, right?
Yes, I do have TikTok.
Instagram,
TikTok's where I draw the line. I'm 46 and I just feel like I don't belong on TikTok. Now, if I was in a band or I had something to promote, I probably would be, but I'm just like, I gotta, there's gotta be a line somewhere.
Yeah.
So, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but, I follow Terry and I have since that interview. So I usually know what you're up to. That's how I knew you played with Jack, but I also wanted to make sure I didn't misremember that. But, so it's always good to see what everybody's up to. And that's where they can find any live shows coming up. And I'm sure it'd be great to see this combination when it's coming. Is there a date that's on the books that we can let people know about, or is it all coming down the pike in 2023?
What's the next date?
The 26th in Louisville. And
so
then
26th of December. So the day after.
No, January.
Okay. All right.
And then the 28th in Detroit.
Oh, great.
Or I don't know if it's actually in Detroit. It's at Emerald Theater.
Yeah, just the Emerald Theater. It's just it's a little bit outside of Detroit.
Yeah.
But it's both shows are actually looking really good as far as ticket sales.
So that means that anybody in those areas should buy their tickets now. Don't just show up at the door, because you never know. Always buy ahead, and just be ready to be ready for the venue to look for 30% on the T-shirt. And
we are there. Some venues are better than others. Some venues cut the break.
Some of them may be long.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
It's usually the bigger ones.
Live Nation. Yeah. If you're dealing with Live Nation, it's much more difficult because it's a big corporation and it's the price is set and that's it. If you're dealing with a smaller club owner, he's happy to see you. He's happy to show to sell out. It's usually easier and the fans are happy because they can get to see you in a smaller environment and everybody's happy.
A friend of the show, Cami Egan, just said, "Hey, come to Chicago," because she's in the Chicagoland area. So,
did you play Chicago recently with AON?
Mm-hmm. No, I've been a couple of times. One time was after St. Patrick's Day and everything. The river was green and everything. It's really cool. I love Chicago.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, but if you're going to play in Chicago, you could always wait till the spring. It'd probably be all right.
Yeah,
a little bit better.
I've been there in February. I think
they have good pizza in Chicago.
Very good.
The big pie, like they call it, the big pie.
I know pie. I'm from New York, so to me, Chicago pizza it's a different thing, but I do enjoy it. It's just like it's like a different animal,
Which one has better pizza according to you, New York or Chicago? You can say it. Go ahead. Don't be shy.
Well, I'm going to say New York because I prefer the thin crust. However, I do like specifically the Lou Malnati's in Chicago was the place that people sent me to, and I did think that it was pretty great. And but there's other Chicago food that I like. They have like the Italian beef sandwich. There's a lot of sausages, and they have their strong suits for sure.
What about Philly?
Cami Egan is chiming in that deep dish is delicious. I'm not saying it's not delicious. It's just not my favorite. And just in case anybody wanted to know, it will also be 3 degrees this weekend in Chicago. So be ready. Oh, and then chiming in from Idaho, Dominicus Saxon says, if I wanted lasagna, I'd order lasagna. I guess it is a little closer to lasagna. That's a great point. It's going to be incredibly cold in the Midwest this Christmas weekend. So everybody wear some extra T-shirts that bands charged 30% for, but you want the ones with the long sleeves. Right? You want the long sleeves. No, you want the $75 Kiss baseball jersey with the sleeves.
Now, who said something about the lasagnas? You said something. Somebody said that.
So this is Dominicus Saxon. He lives in Idaho, and he said if I wanted lasagna, I'd order lasagna. So he's saying that the Chicago style is too close to lasagna for his taste.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you about pizza because I love pizza. I was recently in Naples, Italy, for I think 4 or 5 times this year, and they do. I'm sorry to say that, but they do have the best pizza in the world. In Naples, Italy, That's where it's from, actually.
Yeah,
And I have to say, because I love food, but in Naples,
sure.
they have the best pizza in the world.
Well, I will say
So I
that
know a lot of people gonna say, "Oh no, it's not possible." Yes,
no,
it is.
it's possible. My wife and I went to Florence, and she had studied abroad there when she was in college. So we had to. There was like a day where we ate like 3 pizza places and like 5 gelato shops,
Wow.
and it was all amazing. So yeah, I think
Nice.
that it's a league of their own. It's almost like, well, let's not compare our Italian food to Italy because of course it's better. But
Well, it has a lot to do with the ingredients. It's not
yeah,
that they
for sure.
a lot has to do with the ingredient, the olive oil, the dough, the water. It's like the food in New York is excellent because of the water, because of the dough. So the pizza is really good over there. The pizza in Los Angeles is not that great. I mean, really. I mean, when you go for pizza in LA, I mean, you live in Los
There's,
Angeles,
you know what, I'll tell you is I found a place.
Little Tony.
I used to work in Culver City, and in Culver City is a place called La Rocco's Pizza, and is the closest to tasting just like New York pizza. The crust is right. I live in Burbank. There's a place called Dino's that's pretty good here, but I would say the one that if it was in New York, I'd actually go back to is La Rocco's in Culver City. But for the most part, you're definitely right. And I have a 7-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter. I end up at a lot of children's birthday parties. So that means if I have pizza, it's usually probably Domino's or Chuck E.
Chuck E.
Cheese.
Chuck
Yeah,
E. Cheese sucks, man. Oh
Chuck E.
God, man.
Cheese. Even my daughter took a bite of Chuck E. Cheese and she said, "This is not good."
No, it's
She's
terrible.
Have-
Brett,
5.
Brett, you've been to Chuck E. Cheese?
Yeah, last year. I'm just kidding. But have you?
You went
He
there
had
for
his birthday
you
there
went there
this
for
year.
Yeah.
a birthday party, right?
Yeah,
Um.
the
This,
VIP for AON shows happens at Chuck E. Cheese
Backstage.
before the
yes.
gig. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Uh.
Yeah,
Ski ball.
it's not great, but they have a lot of video games, and
It seems like
I
a lot
went
of
to one for the first time since COVID, and they took out that ball pit where like there were all the plastic balls
Yeah.
where kids could like sink to the bottom. That seemed like the least hygienic thing, and I guess in post COVID they were like, you know what, we'll do our best to keep everybody clean, and the best way to do that is get the ball pit out of here.
in,
But
in fact, with AON, we were thinking about doing with the kids, we were thinking about doing a tour, just Chuck E. Cheese all over America. So,
Yes.
when I was a
you're
kid,
gonna love
Chuck
it.
E. Cheese had an animatronic band that would play like every 20 minutes. They all like there's like robots, and so they don't have it anymore. So maybe they could actually put some live music in there. That's why don't you bring that to your manager, Brett?
Yeah. As long as I get to dress up like Chuck E. Cheese, like maybe
Yeah.
if maybe the mask isn't, maybe the front of it I won't sound like this because it
Oh,
won't
yeah.
be like around my head. It'll be open enough for me to actually sing through. That'd be
Yeah.
sick. I'd do it.
All right. Well, you know what? More business ventures for the future. This is something to look for in 2023. I think, and you know what? I want my 30% because I'm part of this conversation. So we'll work it all out. Well, guys, it was wonderful
30% free
talking to you. Terry, great to get a chance to chat with you again. And I really enjoy the song. Like I said, our podcast audience is about to hear a good chunk of it. The song is called Dead or Alive. You can find it. Just Google Terry, and it's Ilous. And I forgot that you say the S. So my apologies for my intro. But I feel like I'm not the first person to get your name wrong. If I
No,
had to guess.
it's Thierry. I lose everything. So
Yeah. So make sure everybody knows. And Dominicus Saxon found this to be a fun interview. I agree. So thanks so much, everybody. And
Thanks for hanging
make
with
sure
us.
you keep tabs on them. And I look forward to chatting with you again and seeing the band play at the Burbank Chuck E. Cheese or possibly the one in Culver City. We'll see how it works out.
excited about that, right?
Yes, I'm excited.
You and Jake are gonna play there, right?
Me and Jacob?
Yeah.
Yes. While we're playing skee ball.
Yeah. Well, you'll dress like Chuck E. Cheese, and then he has a dog friend, a character named Jasper. So Jacob can dress up like Jasper.
Yeah.
And the kids will love it. Anyway,
Right.
thanks so much, guys. I really appreciate you being generous with your time. It was a fun chat, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah,
And
same, man.
again,
Have a
for our
good one.
podcast audience, let's listen to Dead or Alive right now.
See you, Brett.